Hi. Greetings from Wisdom Lord Raphael. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification icon and don't miss any contents. This is the light novel of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. If you haven't watched previous video, I will leave the link on the description box, or you can click here. Let's start. This is Tensura Light Novel Volume 16. Tensura Light Novel. Volume 16. The End of the Game. Epilogue. Geek Crimson. Unending Battles. They waited for Rudra to recover and resume the duel as promised. However, the outcome was never decided. And after that, Guy and Rudra dueled many more times. Worthy of being the self-proclaimed hero, Rudra was very strong. Rudra, the awakened hero, and Guy, the awakened demon lord. Rudra, the technically brilliant, and Guy, who fought only with his strength and talent. The fights were close, but it was only natural that Guy would gradually gain the upper hand. There were three women who looked blankly at these two men with dismay. They were Lucia, Velgrund, and Velzard, the frost dragon. Velzard seemed uninterested at first, but as the fights grew more heated, she began to enjoy the competition. Well, it looks like Guy's getting stronger again. Yes, sister. But Rudra isn't too far behind either. Yeah, it makes me wonder if he's even human. There's no doubt. He's strong, of course. Rudra is the apprentice of elder brother after all. He's been given him ultimate power, so he'll grow even stronger. Oh, that makes sense. Then, I'm convinced. As for me, I think it's best if no one gets hurt. Like this, the spectators were peacefully at ease. The tea is ready. The winner will be decided soon, so we've prepared tea for Gi-sama and Rudra-sama. It was Mizari and Rain's job to serve them. At some point, this had become an everyday thing. On other days, fights broke out between the sisters that made it impossible to compete. Velzard and Velgrund were on good terms, but sometimes they disagreed over the direction of education. Their newborn brother, Veldora the Storm Dragon, seemed to be very capricious and was constantly running amok. As for the reason for the conflict, sister is too strict. Why can't he be pampered more? Don't be silly. I care about Veldora-chan and I love him very much. In order to make him more mature and stable, I've had to clean him up a few times. Velzard's words about cleaning him up was the ridiculous method of physically disposing of Veldora and reincarnating him. Velgrund didn't like that. I'm saying that you are wrong about all this. You have to tell him with words and not with violence. You can't help it if he can't control the situation, so this is the way to make the kid understand us better. Oh, come on. As always, Velgrund-chan is so naive. In that case, why don't we just beat him half to death from now on so he can become more knowledgeable? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about kindly teaching him more gently about how to live in the city as a person and how to fight the enemy. Velgrund-chan. I think it's better to say that you're more about spoiling than being sweet. You're the kind of person who ruins things by giving too much attention. If you keep that up, you'll ruin that young man Rudra too, won't you? No, I won't. Rudra and I are the best of partners. Therefore, if I train Veldora, I know he'll grow up to be a great brother who respects his sisters. So this time, let me take care of him. Hey, no. I can train him better than you. Rather, I should be doing that all along. Don't be ridiculous. You're saying it's too much for me, aren't you? This time it's my turn. They blamed each other, saying that Velzard was too strict and that Velgrund was too lenient. Guy personally thought they were both to blame. Moderation is best. The true dragon sisters really don't understand the meaning of restraint, do they? Guy was unspokenly disgusted. Hey, that's not our duel to deal with. Yeah. With them fighting over Veldora, it's probably best not to get involved. Guy and Rudra quickly fled to stay out of it. When Guy and Rudra are fighting, Velzard and the girls would come to maintain the barriers, and when Velzard is fighting, Guy would be the one to hold up the barrier. If they didn't, the continent would sink. Even though they were used to it, Guy and Rudra still wanted to fight where they wouldn't get themselves into trouble. As they say, one who can see themselves can tell what is right and wrong. But Guy and Rudra were treating it as if they had nothing to do with it. And then, one day. Damn it, you're here again. Shut up. This game's not over until I win. Nowadays, a duel between these two people was as usual as a greeting. They began fighting as always, and the fight ended once they were both exhausted. Because the fight was always a draw, the usual bickering started once again. You said you were fair and square, but you're just dirty, aren't you? As Guy said, Rudra was dirty. He deserved to be blinded. It was not unusual for him to set up a holy barrier to reduce Guy's power to an abnormal conditional the moment the duel started. Guy did not check for traps until the duel began, but Rudra saw through Guy's character and took advantage of it as much as he could. In addition, his arguments were terrible. Winning is justice. No, rather, if you don't win, it's not justice at all. That is why I'm going to win no matter what. No matter the cost, just win, Rudra boasted thus. Don't be ridiculous. I don't mind if you do it, but at least stop talking about justice and fairness. Guy had a good point. But Rudra just snickered and replied. Are you kidding me? That's you. The move you just used is the same one I used last time. Do you have any idea how many years I spent learning it? A secret technique of distraction. This was one of Rudra's special techniques to avoid accountability by subtly changing the subject. Because Rudra was educated as royalty, he excelled at such ingenious speaking skills. Was it 3 weeks? Yes. Even Veldanava-sama praised it. Overhearing the conversation, Guy was taken aback. The technique he had said he had gone through a great deal of trouble to learn was surprisingly easy for him to master. Guy looked sideways at Rudra and let out a big sigh. Rudra was still complaining that Guy was the dirty one for stealing people's skills, but he had his own reasons. His words and actions were actually the result of Rudra's impatience. Although they were still on par in terms of ability, Rudra had been getting a bit overwhelmed lately. Rudra was more aware of this than anyone else and thought that it would not be good if things continued as they were. If I could win in a fair fight, I would have done so too. Rudra wanted to say that out loud. What he said at first seemed to have nothing to do with things now, but the status quo was that he had to use all he had to win. Although Guy looked stunned, he saw right through Rudra's sentiment. Moreover, secretly, he was enjoying his quarrels with Rudra. Therefore, Guy tolerated Rudra's tactics no matter what they were. It was also because Guy agreed with Rudra's belief that winning was justice. By now, Guy had accepted Rudra. Just knowing that there was someone who could compete with him was enough to make Guy happy. Besides, Rudra was right, Guy's strength was growing the more he fought. The ultimate skill wasn't just something he acquired, it was something he could use to its full potential. Guy learned this through his duels with Rudra. Although he was now fighting with only a sword to match Rudra, Guy was still beginning to overwhelm Rudra. If he added skills and magic to his arsenal, Guy would surely win. And yet, Guy did not do so. Before he realized it, he had begun wanting a draw and not a win. That's why Guy welcomed Rudra's little tricks. But it was only a matter of time. Thus, Guy asked the question. Hey. The first time you fought me, why didn't you all kill me then? If you hadn't named me then and really tried to kill me, you might have won, right? That was the question that Guy couldn't understand. Guy was too proud to admit that he might have lost. Admitting it would be tantamount to a defeat for a mental life form. So for all this time, Guy tried not to think about it. He did not think he was being merciful, nor did he want him to be. If that was the answer, Guy might have killed Rudra in a fit of rage. Just as Guy had pride King Lucifer, Rudra had justice King Michael. If Rudra had been serious from the beginning, it would not be clear who would have won. There is no doubt that he would have been wounded, and there is no denying the possibility that Guy could have been defeated. At Guy's serious question, Rudra replied with a smile and "Oh, you mean that? You're an idiot. There's no point in just beating you. I have to make you realize how great I am, so you'll change your mind and become one of us." Huh? Guy couldn't understand, so he asked back again. "Phew. I am the man who will conquer the world. That's what I promised my friend and mentor Veldanava, the Star King Dragon." Guy knew that Rudra was Veldanava's apprentice, he had said so himself, and he had no intention of doubting it. However, he had no idea that Rudra had ambitions to conquer the world. "You know, Veldanava asked me to do a job for him, which was to stop idiots like you from trying to take over the world." "I know. That's why Veldanava asked me to find a way to gain your approval." Hearing that, Guy thought to himself. "Veldanava, you got tired of the trouble and just pushed it on to me. That's the answer. Show him what is reality." Guy could almost hear Veldanava telling him that. Rudra had been sent away by Veldanava to deal with Guy. But Guy was already in Veldanava's clutches. Since he knows that he took a liking to Rudra, Guy had no choice but to go along with him until the end. If he didn't like Rudra, he would have killed him from the beginning, so now it was too late for him. "Yeah, this guy's still an asshole." Rudra spoke to Guy, who was thinking in a good mood. "I mean, the truth is, I couldn't control Justice King Michael with all my might during the first battle. Even now, I can only control it for a few dozen seconds." It was a surprising admission, and Guy couldn't hide his surprise. "What? You can't be serious, can you?" "No, that's the truth. After all, this power is on loan from Veldanava." Rudra shrugged and began to speak. Guy listened to Rudra's story and thought it felt irrelevant. He was convinced of Rudra's strength. If it was a part of Veldanava's power, then it was no wonder that he was capable of defeating him. However, as he listened to Rudra, he realized that there was a misunderstanding. "This is a secret, but I'll tell it to you. What I've acquired through my abilities is called Covenant King Uriel, which is the crystallization of my beliefs, my vow to unite the world, and the thoughts of my friends who responded to that vow. It is manifested as my ultimate skill." While he claimed to have done it on his own, he actually had help from Veldanava. Even so, it was quite amazing, and Covenant King Uriel, the embodiment of Rudra's heart, was of a higher power in the angelic system. So, I borrowed the Justice King Michael in exchange for it, but this was also troublesome. My Covenant King Uriel was simple and easy to use, with the powers to destroy and protect. But this Justice King Michael has the mysterious power of domination. He could borrow the skills of those he had placed under his control and dominate the holders of those skills. It was a power fit for a king. However, in the current situation, where there was no one under his control, the power was not very threatening. Rudra's strength was real, because he was evenly matched with Guy despite that situation. That's awesome. Guy said as such. As the number of people he controlled increased, the number of powers he could use would also increase. Then, Rudra would become even more powerful. What the heck? I thought that the differences in our strength would eventually become too different, leading to my sure victory, but it looks like this can still be enjoyed. Looks like the fun would still continue. Guy was very happy to realize this. But then Rudra spoke. I'm not into dominating people. If I'm a man, I want to compete only with my own strength. But sometimes there are circumstances that make it impossible to say that. Circumstances? Yes. You're a friend of Veldanava's, so you should have the right to know. Hearing that made Guy feel uneasy. He hadn't been seeing Veldanava lately, though he didn't care much, because he was a long-lived species. Did something happen to that guy? Well, it's supposed to be a happy thing. That guy and my sister, Lucia, were united. It's called marriage. Lucia's pregnant with Veldanava's child, so they're a real family now. A child, you say? A true dragon. It was truly an amazing story, that was sure. But Guy agreed that it was also possible for a being like Veldanava to seek imperfection as the all-in-one. Well, I suppose anything could happen. Yeah. Well, if that was all, I'd just congratulate them. But here's the thing. After that, Rudra told him something more important, making it impossible to stop at mere surprise. Guy couldn't help but stand up and ask Rudra, really? It seems that Veldanava had now become almost indistinguishable from human beings. He was also said to have laughed and told Rudra that he was now bound by a lifespan that he had never had to deal with before. The truth was too heavy for Rudra to simply brush away on his own. That's why he confided in Guy now. It's just like that guy, but what are you going to do? I don't know. That's what I've been wondering about, but I'm pretty sure I can't keep playing with you like this. Well. The two couldn't help but look at each other and sigh at the same time. That's all for today, hope you guys enjoy it. Please check my other videos. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification icon. And don't miss any updates. Thank you for watching.